This is Unhustling with Luis Baez. I used to think urgency meant I cared, that being available 24/7 proved I was committed, reliable, indispensable. But really, I was just anxious in a suit. If a client emailed at midnight, I was there. If my phone buzzed at 6 a.m., I was reading it before I even brushed my teeth. I took calls on weekends, during vacations, even from the passenger seat on date night. Every ping felt like a test of my worth. I was terrified of missing a moment, a deal, a chance to prove that I was on it. But the truth is, I wasn't on it. It was all weighing heavy on me. And I didn't realize how much that urgency was costing me until the day a client I'd bled for disappeared without a second thought. The breaking point came during a 3-month coaching pilot with the corporate client. I said yes to everything, built custom sessions, added deliverables, exceeded every metric they threw at me. I was working nights, weekends, holidays, responding to every Slack message within minutes, making myself available whenever they needed me, because that's what commitment looked like, right? By the end of the pilot, they were ecstatic. We hit every benchmark and then some. I thought expansion was just a formality. I'd already spent the money in my mind. I was planning the next phase, and then leadership changed. The new executives didn't know the work, didn't know me, didn't care about the results, and the contract wasn't renewed. I sat at my desk reading that email, heart pounding like I'd just been dumped after the best date of my life. And it hit me. I hadn't been collaborating with them. I'd been auditioning for them. All that urgency wasn't passion. It was fear wearing a productivity badge. I had convinced myself that being needed was the same as being valuable, but they were never the same thing. Urgency had been my identity for years. It started in the Bronx, where hesitation could cost you an opportunity, where a closed mouth doesn't get fed, where you learn early that if you're not fast, you're forgotten. It matured in Silicon Valley, where people confuse speed with strategy, where everyone's sprinting, but no one knows where they're going. And it lingered in my nervous system long after I'd left both places, because here's the thing about urgency. It makes you feel important. It makes your calendar look full and your ego feel useful. But what it really does is keep you too busy to notice you're burning out. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking about client projects, and I'd call that drive. But it was just my anxiety dressed up as excellence. I was the guy who answered emails at 2 a.m. and wore it like a badge of honor. The guy who said, I'll make it work, even when I had no bandwidth left. The guy who thought boundaries were for people who didn't care enough. And I wore myself down to nothing, trying to prove I was enough. Breaking that pattern wasn't easy. I had to unlearn the belief that speed equals success. And I had to face the truth that being the reliable one was just my socially acceptable way of being afraid. Afraid that if I slowed down, I'd be forgotten. Afraid that if I said no, I'd be replaceable. Afraid that my value lived in my availability. So I made some changes. First, I stopped bleeding out for people who weren't even checking for a pulse. I held everyone, myself, my team, my clients, to the standard of collaboration, not codependency. If a deadline shifted, we adjusted scope. No martyrdom, no scrambling to save the day at the cost of my sanity. If a boundary was crossed, I named it and moved on. No guilt, no apology to her. Then I started tracking weekly progress, but not for them, for me. I needed to see that I was still delivering in excellence even without the chaos that used to fuel me. That little spreadsheet became therapy. Every green check mark was a reminder that calm and competence can coexist. And every quiet Friday I didn't panic proved that peace didn't make me lazy. It made me effective. I also started practicing something I now call selective urgency. Not everything is an emergency, and most things that feel urgent are just other people's poor planning. So I started asking this: is this actually urgent, or does it just feel urgent because someone else is anxious? And 90% of the time, it could wait. Here is the truth bomb. Urgency is just anxiety with good branding. It convinces you that being needed is the same as being valuable, but they are not the same thing. Real power is being able to say, this can wait until tomorrow, and actually believing it. Real power is protecting your energy like it's the most valuable currency you have, because it is. Real power is knowing that your worth doesn't increase with your velocity. Urgency used to make me feel powerful, but calm made me unshakable. And that's the real flex. Not how much you can handle, but how little you tolerate that isn't aligned. Unhustling is brought to you by bookedbusypaid.com, the home of systems that support your sanity. If your business is scaling faster than your energy, it's not a motivation problem, it's a systems problem. At bookedbusypaid.com, I partner with founders to build the structure that turns chaos into clarity and growth into peace. Because building a business you love shouldn't cost you the life you're trying to protect. Visit bookbusypaid.com to start freeing up your time today. Now I want to leave you with a few questions. Write these down, talk these out loud, look at yourself in the mirror, have a moment in the car, whatever it takes. I really want you to process this for a second. Where in your life are you confusing urgency with importance? When I asked myself this, I realized that half the things I treated like emergencies weren't even priorities. Emails that could wait, tasks that no one even asked for, fires that I lit just so that I could feel like a firefighter. I was addicted to the adrenaline of urgency, and I was creating chaos just to feel productive. Once I saw that, I started practicing selective urgency. If it wasn't mission critical or soul aligned, it went on the back burner. And you know what happened? The world didn't collapse. In fact, things started running smoother because focus became my new fuel. Next question for you. Who benefits when you say yes to everything, and who pays the cost? This one stung because the answer was everyone but me. Clients benefited, colleagues benefited, my boss benefited, but my health, my relationships, my creativity, they all paid the price. I was subsidizing other people's success with my own well-being. So I started saying no faster, not from arrogance, but from awareness, because every yes is an investment and my energy has compounded interest now. I protect it like I protect my money because it's more valuable. And the final question for you today: what would you change if you treated calm like a KPI? This question changed my leadership entirely. I started tracking my peace like I track my profit. If I couldn't get through a week without grinding my teeth or losing sleep, it didn't matter how much I made. That's just not sustainable growth. Now, when my week ends and I see that my clients are thriving, my systems are humming, and I still have energy left over, that's my new benchmark. That's what success feels like now. Not how much I hustled, but how calm I stayed while still delivering in excellence. Urgency used to make me feel powerful, but calm made me unshakable. And that's the real flex, my friend. Not how much you can handle, but how little you tolerate that isn't aligned. So if you've been running on urgency, if you've been confusing anxiety with ambition, if you've been bleeding out for people who wouldn't even check for a pulse, stop. Your worth doesn't live in your availability. It lives in your alignment. This is Unhustling, where we build slower, breathe deeper, and still get it all done on our own terms. I'm Luis Baez, and I'm in your corner. Bye for now. You've been listening to Unhustling with Luis Baez. If this episode resonated, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. New episodes drop every Sunday. Subscribe at unhustling.com so you never miss one.